just a quick reminder what we're going to do here. So it'll be mostly a conversation. Anything you want to throw back at me is fine.
Sure.
It's not an interview, of course. And it'll be just about the stuff that we talk about, right? Mm-hmm. Shop talk and that sort of thing. So I won't get into all your awards and all your albums.
It's like you're over at my house or I'm over at your house.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, do
No.
we? No. And if you could, just, try not to work, your hillbilly whiskey into every answer if you could. I know you want to
I think you mean Redneck Riviera American Blended Whiskey that's available in 10,000 locations. You can find them on redneckriviera.com, and we get back to the Folds of Honor. That brand?
Yeah, that's just what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's not allowed. Oh, sorry.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. I'm Clint Black, and tonight I am talking in circles with my good buddy, John Rich. Welcome, John. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir. Good to be on your show. Thanks for the call.
I'm very honored to have you on.
Thank you.
I tell you, John, you are one of, if not the most prolific songwriters I know, and maybe in all of the business. I don't even know. I've written about 150 songs. What have you written?
Well, I've written a couple thousand songs, but most of it's, your quality, not quantity, Clint.
Well, I was going to say there's got to be some crap in there. Come on,
tons of crap.
2,000 songs.
Oh, yeah, it's like 1,900 of them I would never play for you ever. But, it takes a lot of practice to get a good one, I guess.
That's a lot of songs.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
You write that many songs because, you write for yourself, and then people say, hey, write something for me or write something for whatever's going on. And
how do you find those people?
Right. Well, honestly, a lot of that happened from artists that didn't even have record deals at the time came to me, like Gretchen Wilson. Just became friends with her because she's a bartender at a place I like to hang out, and started writing songs with her. And then she got a record deal, and I kept writing songs with her. Jason Aldean was another one. I didn't have a record deal and heard a couple of my demos. He comes up and he goes, "Hey man, I'm Jason." He's real quiet. He goes, "I'm trying to get a record deal here in town. I heard a couple of your demos, man." And he goes, "Could I use a couple of those in my showcase to try to get a deal?" I said, "Sure." I said, "Which ones do you like?" He goes, "I really like Hicktown and I like Amarillo Sky." And he starts going through these titles. I said, "Dang, son, those are my best songs." He goes, "Well, you can still pitch them. I just want to use them for the showcase." Of course, then we all know what happened. He turns into one of the biggest things
out
there.
What happened? Oh, they were
big. He got pretty big. I found myself opening for him a few nights. Yeah, which was fine with me.
That's fun.
That's kind of how it happened.
Yeah. But you're not hunting those things down. People are coming to you.
The songs of mine that you would know the most, that's how they happen. Faith Hill is another example. She came to me. We were out opening for Tim early, 2004, Big and Rich, Cowboy Troy, that whole thing. Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy just come out. Redneck Woman had just come out. Hicktown had just come out. And so Faith is out there, and she comes up to me in a parking lot, behind one of these big arenas, and I'm like, "Oh, here comes Faith. I'm probably in trouble."
Oh, here comes Faith.
I'm probably in trouble. She says, "I wish you'd write me a song." I said, "I'd love to write you a song. What do you want to sing about?" She said, "I don't know. It'd be great if you'd write a song that only I could sing it. It would only make sense if I sang it. It wouldn't even make sense for anybody else. Like Redneck Woman wouldn't make sense for anybody else except Gretchen. Like that, except I'm not a redneck woman." I went, "Okay." Over the next few days, I'm watching Faith, and she's going from flip-flops and cutoffs and ball cap backstage to singing "It's Your Love" out on the stage in an evening gown and diamond earrings, and then walks back up the stage. In 10 minutes, she's back in her flip-flops, running around with her kids. I said, "Man, that's what the fans don't know about Faith." And so I said, "It's a long way from Star, Mississippi," the first line of Mississippi Girl. I said, "Well, only she can sing that because she's the only country star from Star, Mississippi." And thank God she liked it and cut it.
People always ask me, well, what comes first? Sometimes you don't even have the guitar lick or the hook until you get to the studio and play it for the musicians.
I think guys like me and you have a little bit of an advantage as songwriters because we also play. We played in a lot of bands, sometimes a musical hook will be stuck in your head. Like no melody, no lyrics, just something on the guitar.
Yeah.
That would sound awesome on a stage. You may sit on that for 6 months before before some words pop in there. And it can happen the opposite way too, where you got words and you really don't know how that's supposed to go yet. And then, patience, I think, a lot of time is key to songwriting, don't you?
Yeah, I've sat on stuff for years.
Yeah.
I had written just the title of Bad Goodbye down in my notebook, and I don't know how long I had that, but it was going to be a silly little song, tongue-in-cheek, play on words. And I just wasn't even planning to write. I was just looking in my notebook one day, and it hit me that there's more to that, and I just wrote the song in about 45 minutes. But if I'd written it months earlier when I came up with the idea, it wouldn't have been, I don't think, the quality or the deep or the feeling song that it was. I always forget, I think of you as this rockin' guy, you bring a little bit of rap into it, even a little reggae with Wyclef.
Please, man, don't call the police, man.
Yeah.
Please, man, don't call the police, man. Yeah, that was written dedicated to my next door neighbor who really wished I would move somewhere else in that little period of time. And I just thought that was so funny. I said, policeman sounds like please, man. Especially if you were Jamaican, it would probably sound like that, I think. I'm not Jamaican, but I went, please, man, don't call the policeman. Of course, I play it for the craziest guy in town, Big Kenny, because I thought, if anybody looking like that, it's going to be Big Kenny.
Yeah.
He goes, that's crazy, man. We got to write that. Next thing you know, there it was. And then, we've made friends with such interesting across-the-board people. You go from Wyclef Jean to Haggard. I mean, I knew all these different people, and to me, that's an important thing. And being a songwriter too is exposing yourself to all different kinds of talented people and talented situations where you go, wow, it makes your brain turn in a different way it hasn't turned before. And part of that's going to wind up down in you somewhere. And if it's a great element, it'll probably come out in your music.
If we stick to our normal ways, we can do good work. But if we throw ourselves the curveballs, that's when we have fun, surprise ourselves, and end up somewhere we didn't mean to go.
When we started writing songs like that in the early 2000s, the comment coming back from Music Row was, well, it's entertaining, but that ain't country. That ain't country. I said, how much countryer can you get than a guy who grew up in a trailer in Texas in Tornado Alley and has a high school diploma?
And a guy who says countryer
than you. And I was like, what are you talking about? It ain't country. I said, it's country as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
That's always been a problem Nashville has had, is to try to dictate to the artist what country music is. Probably one of the greatest experiences I ever had was going way, way back when Joe Galante had signed Lone Star to the record label in 1994. That's why I only have a high school diploma, because instead of going to college, I went on the road playing music. He set up a lunch for me with Eddie Arnold, because Joe asked me one day, is there anybody you ever wanted to meet? I said, I always want to meet Johnny Cash, and Eddie Arnold would be an awesome guy to meet. That's my Granny Rich's favorite singer, and I heard his records growing up. He goes, okay, all right, well, maybe we make that happen. And then out of nowhere, I get invited to lunch with Joe, and I think I'm getting ready to lose my record deal, because that's, it was me.
He's not taking you to lunch every day,
Let's be honest,
right?
it was me at that time. But no, I walk into the Sunset Grill right there in Hillsborough Village, and there sits Eddie Arnold. I went, oh, my word, and I sit down with Eddie Arnold, and he says, I hear people say that you're writing music in this town that isn't necessarily what they'd consider to be country. I said, yeah, I hear that all the time, and Joe's kind of sitting there. He goes, funny, they told me the same thing, because I was wearing a tuxedo and I had a string section behind me, and they said I should be out with guys like Glenn Miller, or I should be, I was pop. I was a pop act. I had no business being in Nashville. And he goes, I knew I was a country guy, and that's just how country music sounded to me. He said, whatever it sounds like in your head, that's what it should sound like on that record. Just do it like that. And then he says, with Joe sitting there, you'll be making records longer than these people are running the business. I went, thank you, sir. I hope you're right. But,
That's nice, yeah.
Artists got to know that, man. The artists dictate this game, man.
Yeah.
The business can steer it. They can try to maneuver it however they want, but you don't control art. You don't get to determine where it goes. It's a living organism, man. It grows like it's going to grow. And Johnny Cash was not country music when he showed up.
There are not a lot of people who want to go through
Yeah.
what we went through. I remember nights just, with my head in my hands saying, why do I have to want this so badly that I will go through what I'm going through in these bars?
Yep.
And while my friends would be taking vacations, and I couldn't afford to take 2 weeks off, much less pay for the airfare to go somewhere. And there wasn't any way to steer away from it. I remember just thinking, maybe there's a better way, maybe there's a better path to it, but it was never a question of, am I willing to go through all this to get to be that guy on the radio?
I tell young artists especially, country music is not a hobby. If you really want to go down as somebody that did great stuff for a long period of time, it cannot be a hobby. We live in this culture where it's instant gratification. You can put something on your phone and I have 10,000 likes or whatever. Yeah, that's not real. They're not going to stick with you for 25, 30 years over a post that you made. You got to go earn them. You got to do it hand to hand. You got to do it song by song, note by note, show by show. You got to build it the hard way. And if you build it the hard way, it'll last. Look at your career, man. I mean, millions of fans, you say Clint Black, and they go, oh, man, I'd love to have a beer with Clint Black, man. They'd line up outside this building because they respect you because you've been around and you're still making great music.
Thanks. He might have had more to say on that. Hang on.
Let him finish.
So I have to know, Mickey Rourke and Kristofferson delivering for you in a music video for Shutting Detroit Down. I already knew the song and knew it was going to happen, but it didn't matter. That ride with those guys in the video was fantastic. That made me emotional. How did you get those guys to do the video?
Well, I know Kris through being, around other people, Willie or Merle or whoever. I might have been out on the road and run into them and strike up a friendship, and I'm that guy. I tell artists all the time, you need to search out the heroes of country music. You need to know their music. You need to know them, if you can possibly manage to do that, because you need to know whose shoulders you're standing on. You need to know how you got to where you are right this second and build on that. And on top of that, you don't need to compare yourself to who's currently out. Compare yourself to the greatest of all time, and I promise you will never be done working. Compare your songwriting to Johnny Cash, for instance. Okay, good luck. You're always going to try to do better. Well, Kris is one of those guys, so I wanted to stay in contact with him.
Yeah.
And so I did. And Mickey Rourke, I was at a bar in Manhattan about 3 o'clock in the morning one night in a cowboy hat, and I feel a hand on my shoulder, and I turn around, and there's Mickey Rourke's face right in my face, which is frightening. It's frightening, I'll be honest.
Let's face it.
I mean, he would agree with that, I'm sure. Mick would agree. But he goes, hey, Tex. I'm like, Mickey Rourke? He's like, you want a drink? I'm like, hell yeah, I want a drink. So next thing you know, the sun's coming up, and I'm hanging out with Mickey, and we changed phone numbers. So when Shutting Detroit Down came along, that was in one of those moments where Big and Rich, we weren't touring. We're taking 2 or 3 years off the road. I didn't really know what I was going to do other than I'm going to write songs, and I see all that stuff going on in our country. I didn't like it, and most people didn't like it. And so I wrote a song, In the Real World, They're Shutting Detroit Down, and I sent the song to those guys just to see if they liked the song, and they said, dude, you just wrote the truth in that song. I said, well, if I shoot a video on it, would you be in it? It was real lightweight. And they said, absolutely. When it came time to do it, they came through, man, and they showed up. And I just stood there in awe watching those guys carry out those parts and do that for this song. I couldn't afford to pay those kind of guys. They came in because they believed what the song said, and it struck a real chord with them.
It was struck a chord
Thanks
with...
for asking me about that.
Yes.
Nobody's ever asked me about those two guys.
It's
good question.
I love Kris. I've never met Mickey, but I've been around Kris, and I love that guy. It's been said you have a photographic memory, and I'm guessing that comes from your early childhood, memorizing scripture, I guess.
Scripture. My dad's a preacher. He started preaching at 19 years old. He's still preaching today, but he does not preach in big churches or anything. He preaches in prisons. He preaches in the street. My dad went to 32 Mardi Gras in a row, preached on the French Quarter, standing there with a guitar, preaching to people and singing gospel songs while people were throwing beer cans at him, spitting on him, you name it. And he just stood there and did it 32 times. He went down there and did that. And so, growing up, we learned a ton of scripture from him. Of course, I heard him preach all the time. But that was part of growing up with him, is you're going to learn these scriptures and be able to, he'd say, John 3:16, you'd pop it off. But then I had some teachers early on in my life that really worked memory. I got really lucky having a couple. One in particular, Sally Smith, who still lives out in Texas, that was all about memory, and just sharpened me up. That was 3rd and 4th grade. And stuff she taught me back then, I can still do today. And I think it's helped me on stage. It's helped me remember faces, names, when I'm out and about doing my thing. Memory is an important thing to work on. I can still do the President of the United States in under 15 seconds.
Can you start anywhere in there in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1800s?
Well, just give me a name. Give me a name and I'll start with that name.
Grover Cleveland.
Cleveland, Hayes, McKinley, Roosevelt, Taft, Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. See, that was easy. That wasn't the whole list.
Yeah.
That wasn't the whole list.
That's very good, though.
Thanks. I know this is your show, but I have to thank you for something, and I think people would find this to be wildly entertaining. When I was a senior in high school, Opryland was still here in Nashville, and we had moved back to Tennessee from Texas. I didn't have hardly any friends. I had to go to a brand new school my senior year, and I'm like, I just want this to be over with. I want to go play music. And Opryland was having auditions. And so I went to Opryland with my 1971 Dodge Dart Swinger, which I still own. Baby blue with a white hard top. Oh, yes. And took my guitar down there to the Acuff Theater, and I walked in there, and they said, what are you going to sing for us today? And there's all these people out in the audience. I said, I'm going to sing Put Yourself in My Shoes by Clint Black. They said, proceed. I go, your mind is made up, you won't even try. And I finished singing the song, and they went, you're hired, you're going to be working at Opryland this summer. And right out of high school, that's all I could think about, getting that second semester done, because I'm going to Opryland, baby.
Yeah.
Going to Opryland. And
That's great.
I got to Opryland, and that's where I met Dean Sams, who started the band Lone Star, and that's how this whole thing started. And I used your song, man, because it was such a great
You used a
piece of
tough
work.
one. That's one that challenges me
I
every
picked a tough
night.
one because I wanted to show them I could pull it off. Yeah. So there you go.
You've got a Haggard story that I never heard before until, I don't know, a few months ago when you told me you were happened to be at a recording session playing bass guitar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So there's a song Big Kenny and I wrote called "Great Escape," and it sounds like something Haggard would have done back in the late 70s, early 80s. It's just got that thing on it. And Freddie Powers. Freddie was Merle's right-hand songwriting buddy, guitar picking buddy. They lived on a houseboat together in Lake Shasta for 10 years. Yeah. Freddie had gotten the song to Merle. Merle heard it, and Merle was working with Freddie on a little project out at Merle's place out in Redding, California. Freddie calls, he goes, hey boys, Merle loves Great Escape, and we're going to record it. You guys need to come out. Well, at this point, there was no Big and Rich. We had credit card debt up to our eyeballs. I mean, we could barely do anything. And Kenny's like, how much you got left on your Visa? And I went, $1,200. How much you got? He goes, I got like $900. So we go and start trying to find cheap airline tickets to get Nashville to Redding and back. Because we're like, how do we miss this? You cannot miss this. We get out there, and we spend the night in one of Merle's old houses, because as we find out as we get there, we're driving down this driveway, you'll see this big giant house that's all overgrown and cobwebs. I'm like, whose house is that? Oh, that was Merle's house with his first wife. And you go, he still got it? And they go, yeah, he still got it. And then you keep driving, there's a second one. I go, well, what about that one? Well, that was the second one. That's the one y'all are staying in. I went, okay. We stayed there overnight, got up the next morning, and come to find out, Merle's bass player had to go to rehab the night before. And Merle standing out there with this fishing hat on and this giant T-shirt. He's smoking a pipe. Just leave it at that. And he's got this giant T-shirt on with his face on it, and it says Merle Haggard. And he's standing there.
In case you didn't know
and
who you were looking at.
He's breaking the bad news to everybody that, guys, I don't think this session's going to happen today. He's got that eyebrow cocked up like. And we're going, no, it has to happen. He goes, well, unless somebody can play a bass guitar, I'm like, well, I'm not great at it, but I did play it in Lone Star for several years. I went, I can play bass. He goes, you want to sit in on the session today and be one of the strangers? Yes. He goes, all right, well, Book, can you read a chord chart? I said, pretty good. He goes, let's go. I wound up tracking all day with the strangers, but before we went in, I walked up to Merle and I said, I really appreciate you, letting the session go forward and all that. He goes, absolutely, we got some great songs. And I said, I really want to thank you for wearing that shirt today, Merle. And he looks down and he goes, why is that? And I said, if you hadn't worn that shirt, I would have had no idea who in the hell you even were. He goes, brr, brr, and smoke goes everywhere. He goes, let's go to the studio. So we went in, me and Kenny drank 2 or 3 shots or whatever, and we went at it. I tell people I got to be a stranger for the day. It was one of the coolest things I ever got to do.
Yeah. Indeed. This has been great. This is all the fun I knew it would be. I have just one more question to ask you. When you get to heaven, if you could play a song with anyone who's already there, who would it be, and what song would you play?
Well, there's a lot of honky-tonk heroes in heaven. I would probably have to say Johnny Cash is who I'm going to go looking for. He said more with fewer words than any songwriter that ever lived, in my opinion. So I would probably get with the Man in Black, and I would probably want to sing I Walk the Line. Because if you didn't walk the line, you wouldn't have been in heaven in the first place, right?
That's right.
Right? So that would make sense.
That's good.
That's my answer.
That's a great answer. Well, thanks for talking in circles with me, John.
Thank you, Clint.
Appreciate it.
Proud for you, man. Love your show.
Thanks.